Good morning. It's Loren Lockman. I'm coming to you today from the Tanglewood Wellness Center in Costa Rica. And I wanted to share a story with you that came up this morning as a result of testimony from two of the people fasting with me right now who were talking about feeling more flexible and feeling more open. You had an injury that created some problems with both of your knees, right? With flexion in one and extension in the other. And about a little more than a year ago, no, 2 years ago, I got an email from a young woman in Denmark. And she had heard an MD who specializes in alternative cancer treatment, who had come to Denmark on a lecture tour. He talked about fasting, and he said to the group, if you're interested in fasting, contact Loren Lockman at the Tanglewood Wellness Center. So she did. And she registered to come fast, and she fasted with me a year ago, September. A couple months later, she contacted me again. She said, Loren, she said, I don't know if this could help, but I thought I'd ask you if fasting could also help my 54-year-old, 56 maybe, year old mother. My mother, she said, broke her leg several months ago, and I believe it was just, I don't recall now, but I think it was around the knee. I can't remember if it was just above or just below the knee. But it had affected everything. It had affected not just, so she had a cast, right? She got the cast off, and she had no movement. Not no movement, but she could only extend her leg a little bit. Very little movement in that knee, and pain from below the knee all the way up to her right buttock. And so the daughter's question was, could fasting help her? And of course, I explained that fasting is simply the most efficient and effective way that we can get out of the way so that the body can heal itself. If something can heal, nothing is going to be more powerful or more efficient than fasting, assuming it's done properly, right? And so her mother decided to come along. And by the time they got to the center in September of 2011, her mother had been in physical therapy. It had been 8 months since the break. And she'd been in physical therapy since the cast had come off 6.5 months earlier. She still had all this pain, and she still had almost no range of motion. There was a little bit. She could walk with a crutch, and this is 8 months later, but had very little actual range of motion in that knee. And so the two of them spent 21 days fasting with me and a week refeeding. And at the end of her process, she had about 95% range of motion. She could almost completely extend her leg. She could almost completely flex it. And she had no pain for the first time in almost a year. It had been 9 months by the time they left the center since the break. And it was the first time in 9 months she'd had no pain and the actual use of her leg with no crutches. In fact, it was a little too much for her, but she wound up hiking several miles before she left Costa Rica, and hadn't been able to walk with a crutch when she arrived. I've seen similar things over and over again, and again, I've got critics and disbelievers who think this is just phenomenal. It is phenomenal, but what it does is it demonstrates the incredible ability, power inherent in every organism, including the human body, when it has the conditions it needs. If you're eating even the best diet, and she was eating a pretty good diet, almost entirely raw, simple, high water content foods, and yet, even processing the highest quality food, the body is using most of its energy to process food, not to heal. There's a finite amount of energy, so for processing food with more than half the body's energy, that energy is not available for cleansing and healing. 21 days, allowing her body to put all of its energy, spending all day long resting, rarely leaving their cottage, rarely getting out of bed, spending, having the body put all that energy into healing and dealing with whatever was going on there. And sure enough, it healed in 21 days when 8 months of medicine and medical therapy were unable to help. So this is the kind of thing that your body is capable of if you give it the chance. Thanks.